Engine 1 from car 1. Car 1's on scene at Subin Command. Give me a C.A.N report.
What's going on, everybody? This is Mike Goldstein, stickers of the C.A.N report. Mazel tov, y'all. I'm here with a great guest, Daniel Chunk Nelms. He hails from Tennessee. I met him in Georgia at Bears of the Oath, and I have him today as a guest, and I am super stoked about it. If you haven't clicked subscribe, like, or just checked out anything that I got going on, please do so. Subscribe helps let me know that you guys are actually listening, and it lets me know that I can keep on going with this. So please check it out, subscribe, and let me know you like what I'm doing. Dan Nelms, dude, thank you for being on the show.
Man, I'm honored to be here, man. I've been looking forward to this since we talked in Georgia.
Yeah, it's a absolute pleasure, absolute honor. I'm so happy to have you here. I'm going to jump right into your bio real quick here. Dan Chunk Nelms, and we'll also get into that nickname real quick. He is a second-generation fireman, currently working in the Nashville, Tennessee Fire Department, where he is currently assigned to 32 truck on the east side of the city. Chunk also served as a volunteer in various departments since his childhood, from rookie up to training officer. Chunk brings 20 years. That's awesome, dude. 20 years of fire service experience, from small town volunteer fire departments to a large urban metropolitan fire department and anything in between. Chuck has instructed at conferences and fire departments across the country and has been published in a few fire service trade magazines. Chuck's passion for the job is only surpassed by the love for God and his family. Chunk is a proud Christian, husband to Emily, and father to Jackson, Noah, and a baby girl coming in September-ish. All right, buddy. I love it. Thank you so much, man. Did I miss anything?
Nope. That's more than I needed.
So I'm going to start off, man. Why Chunk?
So, like I said, I've been in the fire service really my whole life. My dad retired from the Nashville Fire Department. My brother's there. My mom was a firefighter when my parents met, so on and so on. So the fire service is all that I've ever wanted to do. So I'm like 13 or 14 years old. My brother is the fire chief of a small volunteer department just south of Nashville. I used to go and ride and hang out and all the stuff. Like, I did stuff that teenagers weren't supposed to be doing. Like, I was cutting people out of cars at 14 years old and went in my first fire at like 12 or 10 years old, like a bunch of different stuff. So we're there at this volunteer firehouse, and we had cut the grass or done some training or something like that. And got done, and we were cleaning up and all that stuff, and people were taking showers. And I just came out of the shower, and I put my boxers on, and I went over, and I was bent over getting stuff out of my bag. And the assistant chief who was driving the rescue that day comes walking through, and he says, "Damn, you got a big old chunky butt on you." So it was originally Chunky Butt, and then it just got shortened to Chunky. And then now everybody just calls me Chunk. Like, my T-shirts at work say C Nelms on them, not D Nelms. The name strip on my fire coat says Chunk, and we joke all the time, but it's probably true that if you asked 100 people in the fire department, less than 10 could tell you what my first name is. So
that's awesome.
Chunk.
That's cool, man. What a great story. I love to hear when someone's got a cool nickname, because I was just on a radio show, Hidden Battles, and they were asking me where I got my nickname. I'm like, well, fire departments have nicknames for a lot of guys. So usually someone's going to have a nickname and a good story behind it. And right. I love hearing some good humorous stories. So, so you're from Tennessee. You got a good lineage of firefighters in your family, dude. Like, right. I got to meet your family while I was at Bears of the Oath.
Yeah. My brother was there.
Yeah. So can you hit on that? Like, tell me about your family.
So, like I said, full fire service family. My dad retired as a chief. My brother is a current district chief, which is the same as a battalion in Nashville. There's 4 boys altogether, 4 sons. So oldest son, the second oldest son, he's an engineer at a fire department just south of Nashville. Me, and then the black sheep of the family, my little brother, who's a police officer. My wife is a firefighter, a driver at a fire department southeast of Nashville. I mean, that's all my family does. And I mean, our training business, our dad started years ago, and me and Trey just kind of took it over and kept it going.
Now, what's the fire business?
So Nelms Fire Company. It started in 1973. My dad noticed that there was a lot of fire departments around us that didn't have training officers, anybody to pass anything on. And there used to be a deal that was called the tag burns, that group would rotate from Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia. So tag. And my dad was one of the originators of the tag burns, one of the original burn cadre and all that stuff. So he started this training organization, and it's kind of took him everywhere. My dad ended up the command and control class that was in NFA. My dad was the initiator of that class. He's traveled all across the country teaching, and it was a lot of it at the time was more lecture based. A lot of that, again, command and control, incident command. My dad was kind of the guy who brought ICS to the Nashville Fire Department.
Oh, wow.
And then when Trey got old enough, I say old enough, like Trey started instructing and teaching with dad at 16 years old. I started instructing and teaching with dad and Trey when I was 16 years old. But Trey started doing more of the hands-on stuff and then brought me in to do more of the hands-on stuff. And now we kind of travel and do a little bit of everything, command and control and engine company work and truck company work and RIT and extrication and just a little bit of everything.
That's awesome.
It's 12 of us instructors, I'd say, like a base of about 12 of us that regularly teach and all that kind of stuff from all over Kansas, Tennessee. We got a guy up in New York. So like we've got a good mix of people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. And all starting from your dad.
Yes, sir.
Wow. And I think it's really cool because, in this day and age, we have a lot of training companies out there, which is not a bad thing. We were pretty lucky where we're living in a world where we have conferences and we have these private training companies that can come right to your department and teach you skills that normally you're not going to get. And the out of box thinking. And, you sometimes when you have an outside instructor come in, guys seem to have a little more buy-in from it instead of having it have it more inbred. And I think that's really cool. Your dad saw a need at such an early time in the fire service in the 70s that he said, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to fill this gap because it's needed. And I think that's really commendable. And it's really original. I mean, like that's an OG right there. Like the fact that he started this training company in the 70s and it's still continuing on. It's just, and he's breeding some great instructors and obviously his kids as well to carry on that tradition. It's just so awesome. And I got to meet them at the Bears of the Oath, and man, they were so cool. And honestly, I didn't even think, when I met them, like they've been doing this their whole lives, but they didn't even act like it. They were just so humble, down to earth, and just so easy to talk to. When I met them, they were just they were just so happy to see me, and they didn't know who I was, but they were just so down to earth. And I loved, I could sit, like I was telling you when I saw you, like, I feel like I could just sit down with you guys right now and just have a 5-hour conversation about anything. It was just so cool to meet them.
One of the guys that teaches with us, he always, you do your introductions at the start of class and all that stuff. And he always tells people, and I think it's true, although it's always weird to say, like people who say this about themselves, it's kind of weird, but I think Sean's right that when we teach, man, there's no egos. Like, hey, we're all the same. Rank doesn't matter on our end. Hey, this guy's a chief, whatever. It doesn't matter. This is Trey. This is Aaron. You're Mike. Like we're all here for the common goal of we want to get better. We want to carry something back. So there's no reason in coming in there of I work for a big city fire department and you work for a fire department that staffs with one person per piece of equipment. Like that doesn't make sense. So why go in there and act like a butthead when you can,
Yeah. And you hit a good point about like, we all do the same job, even though it's on like a one station department. And since you do have such a legacy in the fire service with you and your family, and you come from a large department, when you're out training and you're going to small departments, do you have to tailor what you're teaching? Because you have a lot of manpower, you have a lot of trucks, and you go to a station that has like 16 guys and maybe like 3 apparatus. Like, how do you cater your training to that kind of environment?
So the cool thing is, like you said in our intro or in my intro, Man, I've got a little bit of mix of everything. Yes, I work for a big city department now, but the first volunteer department that I worked on uh, was a small bedroom community, had one traffic light in the entire town, and it was a flashing light at a four-way stop that nobody ever stopped at. So, like, I mean, I understand the one person show up on a piece of equipment and you might be there 10 minutes by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The next person shows up on their lawnmower because they couldn't get their truck to start or something like that. But when we go places, if the Goldstein Fire Department hired Nelms Fire Company to come teach, then we would say, hey, this is what we teach, but we will cater things to you. And we would contact you and say, hey, Chief, what's staffing look like? What do y'all work with on a daily basis? What's a box card look like for y'all? Like, we want to get an idea of what you have. And there's no point in us coming in there and saying, like, oh, when with this high rise fire, you're going to get 6 engines, 3 trucks, a heavy rescue, 4 chiefs, and all that stuff. And you'd be like, we don't even have that total of staffing in our
Right.
entire organization. So we try to custom fit what you have, but use the experience and stuff that we have in the past of that smaller fire department, or hey, we work in a big city fire department and we can cater it to those organizations too.
Dude, I love that. You're actually doing the homework of the place you're going to. That speaks volumes about customer service.
Well,
Right?
that's what
Because you
the job's about, is customer service.
absolutely, whether we're at the firehouse or we're instructing, it's customer service.
Yes.
And that's the bottom line, really, is you're if you don't have good customer service, then you don't have a company. If you don't have good customer service in the firehouse, you're not going to get a new truck because they're going to probably vote it down because you think you're all a bunch of assholes.
Yes, sir.
But that really does speak volumes, though. Like, to do your homework, to show that you actually care about the quality of training you're giving to them. And I mean, if I was a chief of that department, I'd probably be blown away the fact that this guy is actually asking like really good information so he can deliver the training that's going to my department. Because you get so many guys that come in, I don't say so many guys, but you get some people that will come in and this is how I do on my department. This is how I do on this department. This is how, and when people hear that, you lose that buy-in.
Yes.
Well, I'm not Nashville, so I don't care how you do it. I'm small town rural and I don't care what you guys do in big city. And I love that you're not coming in with that card of I am on this department and this is how I'm going to show you how we do it. Like, you have your way of doing things.
Yeah. A lot of times we tell people, like, hey, there's nothing we're going to teach you that we came up with on our own. Like, all the stuff is begged, borrowed, and stolen from somebody else.
Sure.
But most of it comes from our failures. Like, hey, we thought this worked. We tried it and it sucked. Like, we burned a building down that we shouldn't have had. The stretch took an extra 60 seconds that it shouldn't. I couldn't force that door. I had to get somebody else to force it. Like, whatever it is, hey, there's better ways to do this. And the same thing goes with the teaching gig. We had places that we didn't think about that we were going, and we would say, like you were just saying, well, in Nashville, at my fire company, we do this, or in my fire company, we do this. And we were supposed to have like 3 or 4 sessions, one per month, set up with this. And the fire chief called me one day and it's like, hey, we don't want y'all to come back. We'll pay you whatever that y'all had scheduled and all that stuff. And I was like, what's wrong? And he said, my guys don't relate to what's going on in Nashville. We're a rural fire department that most of the time we get 5 people to handle a fire, and that's it. And you are running 3 people on a piece of equipment. We're tired of hearing how Nashville does it. Not that Nashville does it wrong.
Sure.
And that kind of was like a gut punch to me. I was like, man, I never thought of it that way. And so that's where that came from. Hey, Chief, tell me about your organization. And I think we've grown a lot since then.
What do you bring to that? Do you use all of their equipment, or do you have like a trailer of stuff that you are bringing to area departments when you present to them?
So it's a mix. We have a trailer. We've got a couple door props, and we've got, bars and stuff from connections we've made through the years and stuff, pro bars and the council tools and all that stuff, which are phenomenal tools, and saws and different hoses and all that stuff. And if we were doing something local-ish that wasn't too far of a drive, then hey, yeah, we'll take our stuff with us. I kind of set a rule for us a few years back. It's a 5-hour rule. If I've got to travel further than 5 hours, I'm flying.
Yeah.
My time is worth something, and I don't want to ride in a car no longer than that. Now, you're going to laugh at me because you drove further than that from New Hampshire to Georgia for class.
No, so see, I flew
Oh,
because I don't. So I'm the same boat. Like, I really don't like driving very far. I much rather, I want to get there. I'm so excited about where I'm going. I don't want to wait. I want to get there now. Like, time is precious, and I want to be from A to B in as least amount of time as possible. Especially like with time is money, and it's just kind of, for me, it's better. I even hate road trips with my family half the time. I just want to be there.
yeah. And so,
Yeah. So no, I didn't drive. I would have loved to have gloat about that one, but no, I mean, like, Griffin Corner. I mean, that dude drove from
yeah,
Utah. That was a haul,
yeah.
and he did
Well,
that with his trailer. So
yeah.
you do. Yep.
We might make a few exceptions. We're in the process of developing a new class/program that'll be like a 24 hour class total, 3 days. And I know just the homework that I've done on this and putting everything together, there's going to be places that I'm going to say, hey, chief, if we're going to come and you're going to host this, we need all these supplies. And they're going to say, hey, we don't have access to all that. Well,
Sure.
we have access. So as much as it would suck to have to drive 10, 12, 15 hours, like that might be something that we end up doing in shifts. Of course, if we're carrying stuff that distance, then we're going to adjust. And when we teach, man, I was telling you earlier, like, we're not getting rich off of this. We're not trying to get rich off this.
Sure.
We just feel like we've got good stuff that we've tried out, that we've used, that have worked for us, that we want to pass on to other people. So as long as it doesn't cost us money to come somewhere, then we're in. Give us somewhere to stay. We'll sleep in the firehouse in a spare bunk and upstaff your equipment. Or if you want to put us in an Airbnb altogether, then sounds great. And then cover our transportation, throw us some money for fuel if we had to drive, or pay for our plane tickets if we flew, or whatever it is. And then, like, we're good. We were going to eat whether we were in Tennessee or in New Hampshire and Georgia or wherever. So we're not worried about all that stuff. So if we had to come to New Hampshire and we needed to bring some stuff with us, then, hey, man, we'll come to New Hampshire. We'll drive and we'll bring what we need to with us.
I love that. And so, what is it that you're in your trailer? Like, you're not just doing engine work. Like, it sounds like you're also teaching forcible entry.
We do a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a guy, there's a guy that's on the teaching circuit told me years ago, hey, man, you need to make a decision. Are you an engine guy or are you a truck guy? Like, you've got good stuff and you do good with both, but you could really get out there more if you would just market yourself as Chunk the engine guy or Chunk the truck guy. And I was like, man, I guess that makes sense. And so I started asking the guys in our cadre, hey, Sean, what would you say you are? Hey, Aaron, what would you say you are? And none of them knew how to answer the question, just like I didn't know how to ask it. So then I said, well, what would you say I was? And they were the same way. And so, to steal the line from Cody Trestrail, I'm a squad guy. I'm just dangerous enough at both that I feel comfortable teaching both. I feel comfortable working on either one and all that stuff. So with that, and the cadre that we have is the same way. We don't want to limit to ourselves and say we're only teaching truck stuff, because, I mean, the class that I did in Georgia, my lecture in Georgia, I did again in Maryland, St. Patty's Day weekend. And then I actually did a long lines skills portion of the engine day, which was a blast. And there's a lot of people who don't get to train on 300, 400. We even built out some 600-foot lines in Maryland. So, like, people don't get that opportunity, and there's not a bunch of people who are out teaching that stuff. So if I said, hey, I'm not going to teach this, you might not ever hear anything about that and think, oh, I have to run leader lines out that are all 300 foot or all 3-inch lines, and then reduce them down that way, as opposed to, man, hose construction nowadays allows us to build those lines out longer, and so on and so on from there.
Yeah. Is there any specific area that you don't teaching? Are you not comfortable teaching? Because, there's people like, you know what, I'm not a truck guy, so I'm not going to pretend to do it. Kyle Ramiga says, like, I'm really not going to teach you about basements because in my area, I don't have basements. So I can't really tell you how to fight a basement fire. I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew how to do it. So like, is there an area that you kind of, I wouldn't say stray from, but at least you have that, that mindset of like, I'm not going to fool you guys. I'm going to be real. I don't know this topic. So that's something I'm going to give to someone else.
I would probably say pump stuff is probably the biggest things for us. And I actually just had a discussion with the engineer on the engine in my firehouse a couple of weeks ago about, man, so many different organizations operate different ways based off of hose construction, their water system, the way their piece of equipment is. And that's like a ton. I feel like a ton of homework that I would have to do before we could come in there.
Yeah.
And especially there's a guy who came from up around your area, Andy Sacadato.
Like I got his book.
Who is doing all the pump stuff and aerial stuff in the state of Tennessee, who is a phenomenal resource for pumps and all that. And then when you see somebody like that teach it, and it's like, man, I mean, I can talk pumps, but if you put me and him next to each other, I look like an idiot. It's just simpler to say, hey, man, I wish I could help you more. Let me recommend this guy. And Andy's a friend of mine that I could send you his phone number and y'all could figure that stuff out. So pump is probably one of those big things that we stray from. But, man, outside of that, we've got such a eclectic group of instructors that work across the country in so many different environments, rural, suburban, urban, older towns like Nashville, built back in the 1800s, to smaller towns that are like 40 years old, 50 years old, that are still. So like, I feel like our group has a good foundation for anything that you need, man.
That's awesome. Did your dad help you to be kind of the person you are today in reference to customer service, in reference to, doing how prideful you are about what you do for work and carrying that standard?
100%.
Yeah.
My dad was, man, I miss him every day. My dad was a character, and there's a lot of people. If you go, I mean, we've got so many people retiring in Nashville nowadays. A bunch of the older guys. I went to a retirement party yesterday for one of our district chiefs, and we talked, and he said, "Man, I wish your daddy was here." And I said, "Yeah, me too." And he said, "Your daddy used to make me so mad whenever I worked with him, and I would make fires with him and all that stuff, because he made sure that we did the job right." And I thought, Chief, what does it matter as long as we put the fire out? And he said, I would give anything for this organization to have 10 of what your dad was, because my dad, maybe he was a hard ass on people and didn't cut people the slack that folks wanted. But he made sure people did their job, made sure people knew how to do their job. And as long as you do your job, he doesn't have to do his, is what he always told people. He was pretty laid back on, hey, you put your uniform on, you put the flag up in the morning, and you put the fires out. If you do that stuff, then everything else is going to be gravy.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Wow. What a great mentor to have.
Yes, sir.
That is, not everybody's lucky enough to have that. And I love that you still cherish that, and that he's made you the man who you are, and, love for the fire service. Man who truly loved the job. And, it's a wealth of knowledge that you've managed to carry on and give it to everybody else. I think that's what's so cool, is you're still doing that. He gave all that information to you and that knowledge and wisdom, and you're just giving it to everybody else.
Yeah. So, and like he gave it to us, and it's kind of cool. Trey is 15 years older than I am. So we're actually half brothers.
Okay.
We've got different mamas, but blood couldn't make us any closer than we are. But because of that age difference, Trey was almost like having a second dad. And there's a lot of people who still think Trey is my dad, but he was almost like having a second dad. You hear guys who said, "Oh, I got in the volunteer fire service and I was going to the firehouse and riding with my dad, and my dad was teaching all this stuff." Well, by the time I got into the fire service, like really got into it, my dad was in his late 50s, early 60s, so he wasn't really doing he wasn't riding a rig or anything like that. He was still teaching and all that, but all my first that people talk about doing with their dad, I did with my brother. My brother took me in my first fire. He took me to my first penny, and he was there the first time I did CPR on somebody. I mean, like, he was there for all of it. So our dad set all that stuff up, and then Trey really carried that stuff on for me and for our family's business and the fire companies that we served. And man, really cool. I know it's like super against the rules for people and all this stuff. And Nashville has just recently instituted a nepotism deal, but Trey was my chief for 3.5, almost 4 years.
Wow.
And we worked in the same firehouse for 2.5 years, same shift, same firehouse. So we would come to work every third day and, I mean, like, hang out with your brother. And we would go to fires and go to wrecks and cut up and eat meals together. And so because of that, like, he's helped keep that drive and passion for the fire service going.
Wow, that's awesome. What
Yeah.
a great story, though, that, to be able to have that your brother right there with you through all that. With your father, he sounds like he was obviously a man of just great wisdom and respect from everybody. What was something that really stood out for you? What was like the biggest like teaching or phrase or something that really he instilled to you that you remember to this day? Do you like, sometimes fathers will have that certain effect, that certain statement, whether it's a good or a bad thing. What did he burn into you?
So my dad was not a man of few words. My dad was a man of many words. But he always talked about the 4 biggest things in life for him was your faith, your family, the country, and then your fire company, whether that's the firehouse you work in, the fire department you work for, or training business or whatever. And so, as much as we all think like, man, I love this job, and I really do. I love our job. If I got hurt and lost my job today, if I quit my job today, if I quit the fire service isn't going to love me anymore. But my family is always going to love me. God is for sure always going to love me. So my dad always told me, as much as you love this job, do not put this job before your country, before your family, and before God. And I try to live by that every day. I'm far from perfect. I stumble every day with something. But I think of something every day that my dad said. I think of something that I need to call and ask my dad about, and I hear his voice and say, "You're right, Dad," and that's what I'm going to do. And so I try to live by that as best I can.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's some good words, man.
yeah.
That is really impressive. Good for you. I love it. So we hit on family a lot, and you guys, you know what? Family is not just your blood either. Like what I noticed when I went down to Georgia, you guys are family.
Yes.
Like even though you're in Tennessee and they're in Georgia, like man, you guys were like all attached at the hip. You're all just like brothers, from different mothers, and it was impressive to watch. And I couldn't stop bragging about Bearers of the Oath to everybody. That's why I had to wear the hat,
Yeah.
and so I was so impressed of how connected everybody was. And again, coming from New Hampshire, we're not incredibly faith based. We're not heavy into religion.
Yes,
And we obviously, people have their beliefs up here and they do their thing, but it's not as prominent down south. And so it was kind of a shock to the system to see how much you guys loved each other and loved God and Jesus, and you weren't afraid of it, and it was I loved that people wanted that. It was training, it was rejuvenation, it was all encompassing, and you guys just had that bonding that you could tell that you developed over years. And it was so fun to watch you guys all just the way you worked with each other. And like you could lead the team, you were the voice, like you were wrangling all of us together. You were like Big Papa, getting all the kids together and having them listen. And just the way you guys would get together and pray to start the day. And then then even in the middle of the day, there was something going on, you guys got together and held each other up. And I watched from a distance it looked like something was going on where someone just needed to pray for a moment. And you guys were at the cross there and praying. I thought it was pretty special. Like, just to console somebody who was having a hard time, and you guys didn't care, and we just stopped it, and you took care of business.
Yeah. So, man, it's funny that you say all that because, and I always brag on Shane for putting this group together. Shane and I think it's Shane and 3 other guys kind of started Bears, and they would teach here, and this person came to 3 or 4 classes, and it was like, "Hey, Robbie, you're one of us now." And then Robbie brought some of his guys in, and so on and so on. So 2021 or 2020, I think one of those was my first exposure to Bears. Shane called me. I didn't answer the phone. I didn't know who he was. Didn't really know who he was. He sent me a Facebook message. He was like, "Hey, I'm fixing to call you. It's a Georgia number. Answer the phone." So he called me. I answered, and me and Shane talked for like 45 minutes or whatever. And he was like, "Man, you don't know me from Adam. I don't really know you. I see what your family's got going on with your training stuff. I think you need to come be a part of what we got. Come to Dalton. I'll take care of everything for you, your transportation. I'll give you somewhere to stay. I hope you're okay with not getting paid." Again, no big deal. And I walked in on day 1, and the only person down there that I knew was Shane from a 45-minute conversation. I didn't know anybody. And hey, now me and these 2 guys that I've never met are leading this search skill station. And I was like, I don't want to step up and then feel like I'm stepping on their toes because they're guys that have been here, but I don't want to stand back and not. And by the end of the week, I mean, like you said, I felt like I've known those guys for years. I mean, hugging each other and knew everybody's wives' names, and Shane's girls were there riding bikes around the drill tower in Dalton and all that stuff. I mean, I was like, man, this is special. And then here we are now, 2025. I've been to a lot of fire conferences, taken as a student and teaching. But what we did in Georgia in February down there in Douglasville was special. That was the coolest fire conference I've ever been a part of. Yes, when we were in Dalton and all that stuff, we prayed beforehand and all that stuff. But like you said, there was a cross in the corner of the classroom for lectures on Monday. There was a cross that was on the drill field Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Like nowhere else do you see that stuff.
No, you don't.
The testimonies that were given every night after the long day of class, the people had music playing that was contemporary Christian music, and you'd be over here singing all that stuff, and then all of a sudden you'd hear another voice, and you'd look, and it's somebody on the other side of the drill field that's singing the same song. Like, man, it was so cool to come and be.
It really was.
Like, it's like I said, my dad always told me God has to come first, but I love this job so much. Like, what an opportunity to bring both of those together. And I mean, we're supposed to be a disciple. We're supposed to be the examples that God wants us to be. So yeah, I can be a good fireman. I can be a good instructor, or a good officer, or a good chief, or whatever it is. But why can't I still show that I'm a good Christian, that I love God, and that you should love God too, and kind of put both of those together. So, man, it was a special, special week.
Absolutely, brother. It was definitely something I'll never forget, and I can't wait to come back to Bears and be a part of that again. I was blown away when Shane had asked me to lead the prayer to start the Tuesday drill yard operations, and I immediately said yes. I couldn't. I was so excited, And I was so humbled by it. And it's like, and the backstory too is like, I reached out to Shane. I said, dude, I want to come to Bear so bad, but I can't afford it. Like I can't afford all the travel and to pay for the class. And he's like, brother, the thing that we don't say at Bear is we don't ever say no. And I was like, okay. He's like, so we're going to work it out. Don't worry. And, he let me come to the conference, and he never asked for anything in return. And when he said, would you be willing to lead the prayer? I was like, well, man, I'm definitely not going to say no. I mean, he's given me so much. But I felt so compelled to want to do it. And again, I'm just some schmuck from New Hampshire, some Jewish dude from New Hampshire coming down to Georgia and leading a prayer. And I hit on talking about like the Torah talks about these certain things. We're all the same. We all believe in a God. And not once did I ever feel less than anybody else because my faith is different than yours. Right. And it was such a welcoming experience, and it was so hospitable, and everybody made me feel like family, and we were under the same God. It didn't matter whether I'm Jewish or not, not Christian or anything else. If I didn't even believe in God, I didn't have to say it, but no one's going to think of less of me. And it was great just to feel welcomed and to be wrapped in everybody's warmth and embrace and be part of that family. And it was a warm feeling. It was a welcome feeling. And I'm so excited. Like, I can't say enough. Like, I think God does have a plan.
Yes, sir.
For everybody. The negative things that have happened in people's lives guide you to a different place. God guided me to do this. And I think it's really cool. And to motivate me to talk to people and to go to conferences, get out of my comfort zone. I would have never met you. I would have never met Shane. Like, just to flat out just have the balls to say, Shane, I can't afford the class. Can I come still? Yeah, absolutely. Let's go. So it all works out in the end, and we're all better people for it. And to have you to be my friend and to be on the show, man, it's something that's really, really cool. So, we're going to go into more now. Like, so you got engine work versus truck work. Tell me about that.
Well, we kind of talked about it. I spent a little over half my career on a truck. And of course, the lesser half I've spent on an engine. And man, everybody's engine guys talking trash about truck guys, and truck guys talking trash about engine guys. Of course, it's all fun banter and all that stuff. But man, there's a need for both. There's an obvious need for both sides of it. And this group says, hey, we're fighters, and this group says, hey, we're the real workers, or whatever that looks like. The fact of the matter is, none of us can do this job without both sides of it. We're all there actually for one person, and that's whoever's doing the searching that's going to bring that victim out, right? We stretch the initial line to put water on the fire, so that way the environment's better for the search, the environment's better for the civilians that's in there, and we can get to them and get them out quicker. The truck chauffeur is throwing the stick for access to upper floors, so that way we can get into the building quicker, because the fastest path to those victims is directly to the bedrooms, because that's where we're finding those, or whatever it is. So it's all a choreographed dance, as I like to think of it, where no matter what you're on, an engine or a truck or a rescue or whatever, we're all there to help each other regardless. So I teach, I put engine and truck on there, engine versus truck on there, because, and you asked me about it, man, I get put in positions to teach engine work a lot, which is fine. But man, I'm a truck guy at heart. I really do love truck work. We had a guy that retired from our job, I don't know, probably 10 years ago now, close to 10 years ago. And he called me one day and said, man, I don't know if anybody's ever told you this, but you're one of the best truck guys our fire department has. And that really made me feel good. And I was like, man, we've got a lot of good truck dudes on this department. He said, you're right, but you're one of the best. And he said, you and your brother make such a great team. My brother at the time was a captain on probably our busiest engine, for sure, the engine that made the most fires in the city. And he's like, your brother is the engine guru and you're the truck guru. So like, you and your brother really are the best of both worlds when it comes to firefighting. And so I always thought that was a cool thing to think, like, you know what, that's what I want to be. And in Nashville, again, I'm not talking bad about the fire department, because
Sure.
I'm proud to say I worked for the organization that my dad was at and my brother's at, and it's a city I grew up in. But when you kind of look at order of importance, it's like special ops companies, then maybe even EMS is a little bit higher, based on what our some of the stuff is allocated to, and then engine work. And then way down here at the bottom where you can barely see is truck work. Like, it's not cool to work on a truck. The people who work on trucks are hiding from medic runs, and they go to those because they're slower or whatever it is. And man, I want to make working on a truck cool again.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want to do. I don't want them to think like, oh, here comes truck 73, whatever they're gonna have. No, I want them to be like, man, thank God y'all came. When we heard that y'all were on the card, I was like, yes, I know that the vent hole is going to be there. I know that if I get trapped, that there's going to be ladders at the window. I'm not going to have to force any doors, like everything. And that's me. I'm a truck guy at heart. I want truck work to be as cool as being on the nozzle, or as cool as being a tech rescue guy or a hazmat guy or whatever.
I love it. It's cool because, you know, like for me, we're kind of cross staffed, we're kind of cross trained, so we have to do it all. And you are doing it all, but I love that you want to bring that culture back. You know, that to make truck company work cool, and it is there. It's not, it really it's back, right?
Yes,
And
sir.
you're helping to lead that charge, which I think is awesome. And you have such a good voice for it. Now, you wrote an article, truck article, keep it simple, and it's in fire engineering. And I'm sorry if I'm looking away. I'm looking at the article right now. And fire engineering, truck work, keep it simple. And you wrote a great article, and there's actually a video of you talking about it as well. How did you go about writing this article?
Well, man, I've wanted to get published for a while. Like, I felt like I've had something good to say, but I didn't know how to write it down. And actually, while I was in Georgia at Bears, forgive me, what was the gentleman's name that was doing the other photography stuff that had the mic?
Oh,
I can't
he
think of.
does the Hopes and Angels, or
Yes.
is it Derek? I think his name might be Derek.
Man, I feel bad for not
I
remembering,
feel
but
bad too.
all the lecturers wore a mic, and he recorded everybody's lecture. And so I told him when I got done, of course, I didn't know he was going to put it up on YouTube or anything, but I was like, hey, man, how do I get a copy of that audio? And he's like, well, what do you want it for? And I've done this before. I just recorded myself talking to some of our rookies about truck work, and then took the words that I said, and that's how I wrote my article, versus sitting down and typing out the stuff and then you forget stuff. So
Yeah.
I've got another article that I'm working on long lines, and that's what it's going to be called, Long Lines for the Win, about why you should have long lines on your fire equipment. And if the white shirts won't allow you to do that stuff, here's ways that you can build them out with the stuff that you have on your equipment or whatever it is, based off of the recording that he made of me at Douglasville. So that's kind of where the Keep It Simple article came about. I got moved from a truck on the south side of Nashville, 26 truck, to the far east side at 32 truck, brand new crew, brand new truck. The engineer on my piece of equipment had worked on a truck prior, but it had been like 10 years, 15 years since he worked on a truck. The other guy on the back of the truck had never worked on a truck. Our captain got hurt our first shift towards rotator cuff. His labrum dislocated his shoulder, so he wasn't there. So I did all of our acting in charge for the last year. The engine crew in my house, nobody on that engine had ever worked on a truck. And I was like, man, we got a lot of work to do for people to understand truck work. And so I wrote some notes up on the board. We got a big training room at the firehouse, and I wrote some notes up on our dry erase board. And I thought, like, you know what? This is my article. This is the truck article that I want to write. So I just recorded myself giving that presentation to the crew there. And then I've fine tuned it several times since then. If we got a new rookie that was detailed to us for the day or got assigned to our district, or we had somebody travel in who doesn't really know how we do business, after they put their stuff on the piece of equipment in the morning and we get our checkoff done, I say, hey, Mike, meet me back in the classroom, get you a cup of coffee or a cup of sweet tea or whatever it is. I need 20 minutes of your time, and we're going to go over some stuff real quick. And we go back in the classroom, and I just do a 20-minute session. So that's where it came from.
That's a great article. And that's why I was still looking at it, because it's got such great information, and it's easy to read,
Good.
and us as firefighters, we like simple, we like easy to read material. Where did you get the information from? Is it just from studying and gathering and doing your homework and years on the job, I imagine? Just were you, as you were progressing in your fire service career, I'm a note taker. I'm always kind of jotting down things and here and there. Is that where you started building this material and this knowledge to create your article?
Yeah, I would say it's a combination of all that, like stuff that I've heard through podcast, stuff that I heard instructors and I made notes of, videos that I've seen on YouTube or different things like that I put together. And then, of course, like you said, like stuff that I've picked up from the job, trial and error. Hey, this didn't work. Let's come up with something different. Hey, we had too many of this tool and not enough of that tool, or so let's tweak this and make everything work. And so that's kind of how the article came about, was let's make things as simple as it is. Think of the dumbest person, the simplest person in your organization, and make this digestible, that if they came to a truck, they would understand truck work. And not that, so we've got 3 rookies in my district right now, 1 at my firehouse and 2 at a neighboring firehouse, but they get traveled to us pretty regularly. And I've done the same thing with all 3 of them. Hey, this is what truck work is. When you're here, you come off the rig like this. These are the tools that you carry. And it's not the entire city doesn't use riding assignments or anything like that. We're slowly, I think, trying to go to that, but it's not a OPG that's followed that way, or a SOG or whatever you call it. But hey, this is how we operate. And the young lady that we just got assigned to our district, I gave this talk to the day after I came back from Maryland. So 17, so like the 20th of March, she's like, hey man, I appreciate this. I went through 3 or 4 weeks of truck stuff through recruit class, and I kind of understood it, but this is the simplest anybody has ever explained truck work to me. I really appreciate it. And I was like, man, then maybe my article is going to come across that way to people. And for you to say, man, this is really easy to read, it's super digestible, that's what I wanted for people.
Yeah, it really is. And if anybody hasn't read it yet, go to Fire Engineering. It's simple. Even the title's simple. Truck work, keep it simple. You can't lose that. So, by Daniel Nelms, it is a really good article, and it's well written, dude. And it's really it applies to pretty much everybody. I love that you got louvers in here, or lovers in here. And, it's just,
So that's the funny thing. When I got in the fire service, lovers you or louvers is what everybody taught. The first captain that I worked for, or I guess technically the second captain, the first truck captain that I worked for, like super big in studying everything, like not just on the job, but like super brainy guy, whatever. And we were talking acronyms in the firehouse one day, and he's like, hey man, let me show you something. And so he had some study that he had found. I can't remember. I'm like 99% sure it was Stanford, but the University of Stanford had looked at all these different professions that used acronyms and all that stuff, and how people within these professions were at retaining acronyms, the letters in them, and how all their learning styles were, and blah blah blah. So the study said the average firefighter can't remember more than 3 letters in an acronym. So Lover's U is obviously 8 letters. I think that's right. I was like, okay, how do we simplify this? And so, like it says in the article, everything that we do as a truck is 3 functions: ventilation of some sort, entry of some sort, and search of some sort. Everything else facilitates those. So I can't do VES, make entry on the second floor without a ladder if the engine crew has a bottleneck going at the front door. I can't do vertical ventilation without ladders being thrown. I can't make entry without force entry, right? I can't go into a window without bars cut off a window. Like everything that the truck does facilitates those 3 functions: ventilation, entry, and search. So I was like, hey, this is it. Like, that's 3 letters in an acronym. Firemen can comprehend this.
Mm-hmm.
I know all the other stuff is part of our job, but surely they can understand that when we're talking second story search, going to a window initiated search or VES or whatever you want to call it, that we have to have a ladder. Like, obviously that facilitates each other. And so, like, man, to me, it just clicked. Like, yes, this is what we're going to do. And man, I've sent it out to a bunch of people in our organization, not the article, but the notes and stuff that I had before the article. And everybody's like, yes, we need to do this. And so that's kind of becoming a way that a lot of our truck companies are operating now. The truck that I came from, great captain, no offense to any other captains on our organization, any other captains I worked for, but my last captain at Truck 26, best captain that I worked for, like, really supported me in what I was doing, didn't take crap from anybody, but truly loved truck work. And old school guy, came on in 98. So whenever he looks at the stuff and says, hey man, you're right, we need to change the way that we're doing stuff, this is going to make us better, that's when I know that something is right. That, like,
That's
hey, we're
awesome.
doing it right. When this senior guy is saying this is right, then it's right.
Yeah. Well, that's great when you have positive reinforcement for somebody in that senior position to have that buy-in with you and tell you you're doing good work. And yeah, I agree with you 100%. Keep going, because that's a tough part too, putting yourself out there,
Yes.
writing articles, doing teaching, instructional videos, and then what people are saying in your own department, to get that buy-in. You write an article and they come back like, either who are you to write this article? You don't have enough, you don't have enough skin in the game yet, or you don't know what you're talking about. And to have someone like in that position to give you that positive feedback, that carries a lot. That must have make you feel really good.
Man, it did. It really did.
So that's good, dude. So do you have any other articles that you said you were already trying to go with another one, the long line? Is there anything else after that? Or are you kind of gonna pump your brakes a little bit and figure out what else you need to do next, or you got another thing going on?
No, so long lines is coming. I just kind of slightly put together an outline of how I want that article to look like based off of the audio. But yesterday, in about 2 hours, I had some downtime in the morning at work. We were slow in the morning. I actually wrote another article on the inside team. So one of the guys from fire engineering calls me and is like, hey man, your article is great. I'm glad that you did that. I'm glad that you put that on there. It's awesome. I was like, man, I appreciate it. And he said, you need to break down the inside team and the outside team. Who makes up those? Like, what are the riding assignments that you use for that? What tools are those guys carrying? What does that operation look like on a residential occupancy versus a commercial occupancy and all that stuff? So yesterday I sat down and wrote like a 3-page article on the inside team. I sent it off to half a dozen guys to kind of review it and all that stuff. My wife will review it tomorrow when she gets home, and then hey, if it holds water and everybody thinks it's good, then I'll send it in and see what it goes like from there. So I've done hey, this is what truck work is, right? Keep it simple. This is how the inside team functions on different occupancies. This is how the outside team will be next after the inside team operates, and then maybe dive more into um, fighting fires in high-rise buildings or in commercial buildings. I don't know why, but in the last 5 years, I've grown super interested in high-rise firefighting and fighting fires in commercial buildings. Now, I'm not any of these guys that teach at the high-rise conferences, or like I'm no super guru, but I think I've got some stuff that works for some hillbillies down south who can make things work for them with lesser manpower than you might have in a New York or in a Denver or something like that. So I might try to look into doing something that's incident specific rather than, hey, I'm just going to talk truck work, you know?
Yeah, that's great. I love that you're expanding your horizons, dude. That's great. You're not pigeonholed into one discipline. I like what you wrote here too. I like that you showed what you can do for each number of crew that you have on an apparatus. So if you show up with a 3 firefighter crew, you have your inside team, officer and firefighter with irons, and the outside team is the chauffeur. Because that's, for me, I have a 3-man team.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
us.
right. That's a majority of America for the most
Yeah.
part, unless again, really big cities. But I love that you also expanded it. Well, now if you got a 4-person crew, here's what you got now left, and how you're going to make them as your team, and then so on. I love that you're laying it out of what you have your personnel and how you can use them to your advantage. It's a really good detail in there, and suggesting splits of the crews, and you really get into some really good detail about that. And it's just stuff that I talk about when I'm instructing, and it's stuff that we talk about in my department around the table about how we're going to split up crews and who's going to do what. And it's really cool that you lay it down again in the most simplest of terms. It's really, you don't make it complicated. And for me, not a lot of big words, and I like that very much. But it's a strong article, my friend. I like it. So I'm looking forward to the long lines. I got to see your presentation on long lines, and I thought it was really, really good. Very well put together. I loved the audio and video that you had to go with it. It applied to a lot of, you didn't have to be a big city for it either. I saw some really good advantage of what you're talking about bringing long lines up to a garden style apartment and how you're going to have to lay that in. I thought that was really good. So can you expand, obviously would say it better than me, about that presentation about long lines?
So I can't speak for everybody, for every fire department across the country, obviously, but I can speak on Nashville, and I feel like I can speak pretty confidently, say I can speak on the Southeast, and we are dominated primarily by crosslays, right? Crosslays are easy. You step out of the rig, they're right there. They're pre-connected. They are either the same length or maybe one section or so longer, but because of that, one, estimating the stretch has kind of fallen to the wayside for a lot of engine crews. They don't really know how to do that. But the first long line that was put in place in Nashville was on Engine Company 6. I worked at Engine 6 for 2.5 years. I mentioned my brother was the captain at Engine 6 prior to him making chief. We had an apartment complex, used to be Warren House Apartments, that garden style apartments, but it had a super, super weird layout to it. There was no drive access all the way around the property. You come in, there was a parking lot that sat out front in front of the A building, and then everything else was behind it. You walked through a breezeway under the A building to get access to the other buildings. And I want to say there was 6 buildings, not counting the pool house in there. So like a 200 or even a 250 foot crosslay may or may not reach the majority of those.
Sure.
So the D building at the Warren House Apartments for sure would not reach. We went out there and trained on it a bunch. When my brother was the captain there, they trained on it a bunch and all. And it just was like, hey, we got to do something different. So we ended up putting a 400-foot line on the back of engine 6. And that was A shift at the time that did it. One of the other crews, I don't remember which crew it was, but they came in and they were like, why would they put a 400-foot pre-connected line on this engine? This is stupid. They'll never use it. It's a waste of space. It's a waste of hose. Not even 2 weeks later, a fire at Warren House Apartments in the D building, top floor. And if it hadn't have been for that 400-foot line, they would have burned that building up. And so, like, the stretch was perfect and all stuff. Well, fast forward, I don't know, a month or so later, a fire in a neighboring company's territory. I want to say it was Engine 35's territory. Engine 6 got sent actually as the RIT engine, but they got there, and the chief that we had at the time was like, hey, y'all don't have anything that's going to reach us. It was a forklift that was on fire in the middle of a warehouse. Y'all don't have anything. Y'all can try to build something or whatever. He's like, hey, command engine 6, bring your engine up here to engine 35. Came up, 6 has stretched the 400-foot line off and made it to the center of the warehouse to where the forklift was, put the fire out and all the stuff that had caught on fire since and that stuff. Well, again, you get back to the firehouse, you get everything on there, and then that shift that scolded us for having it on there was like, man, can y'all teach us how to load that? Hey, man, we need to know how to do this. And so we taught them how to load it, and the rest is history. Now, like, I would say 95% of the fire companies in Nashville run some long line setup off the rear of their piece of equipment, and most of them are running like a 300, 2.5, and then a 400. That's probably some type of a leader line setup, whether that's a gated Y or a bell reducer or something like that. So it kind of become the standard across the fire department now.
Wow, that's it's funny how sometimes the most inopportune times create these new tactics, and it's funny because like I talk a lot about that. Like, change is hard, dude. Like, trying to get departments, to change some like hose loads or nozzles or different ladders or different size ups.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and then you have guys who've been doing the job for a long time, and you're like, hey, let's try it that way. I think it's gonna work. And like, no, it's not gonna work. And then all of a sudden, well, here you go. It's not like a told you so, but in a way, it's like it kind of is. Like, see, it works. Like, we should have given it a shot.
Yeah.
So it's cool how that came out to be, and everyone grabbed onto it and understood that this is important.
Yeah. So, and I mean, now, like I said, so everybody has something on their piece of equipment, and for the few random that don't, we teach ways to build those lines out. Hey, what do I do if I stretch short? If I stretch a 250 cross lay, how can I overcome stretching short? Hey, I can throw a bundle on the end of it, 100-foot bundle, and it can extend off of it. Hey, what if they're doing their long line setup and it has a gated Y and I need a second line? Hey, I can bring the bundle off my engine. I mean, I had to walk uphill because we got a lot of houses built into hills and all that stuff, super steep driveways that engines can't get up. Man, I didn't bring our rack. What can I do? Hey, just take the nozzle stack off of one of the cross lays, break it, and take it to that gated Y, and now we can expand off that. Now we've got 2 lines going off of it. So we teach all those different options of coupling drops, rope stretches, adding bundles to the end of it, break and takes, so on and so on, that allow you those options, even if you don't have that set up on your piece of equipment.
Wow, that's awesome. What you're just covering everything, and that's fantastic. All options that you can get. That's what you need. That's we sometimes I wouldn't say we fail in it, but we we forget that there's just all these other options. It doesn't have to be this one traditional method. There's just all these other ways to do it. And if it gets the job done, it's, you're better for it. Have those tools in your toolbox. If plan A isn't working, let's go with plan B, plan C, plan F. Like we got to make sure we have all those in our toolbox and pull them out when we need it. And it's great to be able to ever be moving and ever fluid in our tactics and operations.
Yep. So it's worked good for us, whether we're teaching or it's worked good for us in the field every day working. That's kind of I tell people in Nashville, if you want to learn to be a fireman, you need to go to Antioch, go to South Nashville. And man, I made a lot of good fires. I worked in Antioch for the last 7 years, with the exception of this last year. The 7 years prior to that, I was in Antioch, and I got to make a ton of fires. And we made a ton of mistakes, stretching short. But man, you pick up that stuff, and it just kind of becomes second nature. And so, don't give up on it. Find, like you said, the right tool for your toolbox. Now, I will say, let's not put too many tools in that toolbox, because you can tend to forget the stuff that works if you get drawn into the gimmicky stuff. Or, hey man, I really look up to Joe Spivens. And so he put this video up that they used this hose load. And because Joe is one of my mentors, we're automatically going to go with this. When it might work great for Joe's fire department, but it's not going to work great for the Nashville Fire Department or the Dairy Fire Department, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
no, it's a good point. You're absolutely right. And that's, I guess, even a trial and error basis, right? Like, try it out, see if it works. If it doesn't, then okay, we gave it a shot and go back to what we're used to. But the fact that you have open-mindedness and that you can try something out, if somebody wants to give it a shot, we'll train on it and see how it works, and we'll get some reps in. No, it's not going to work for us. We're gonna stick with this. Cool. All right.
yeah.
At least you saw it before you even just giving the answer no. Like, at least seeing it, like you said, like, we don't want to confuse people having all those tools, because you're not gonna be able to find that screwdriver when you need it.
Yes, sir.
Dude, thank you, Dan Nelms. Chunk, I appreciate the hell of you, brother. I thank you also for sticking with me. A little hiccup there. I think I could patch it up. I think we'll do good. But man, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on. I love talking shop with you. And hey, quick question. I noticed you do smoke cigars. What kind of cigars do you like? What do you smoke?
All right. So I do like the sweeter cigars. I'm a Drew Estates. I like the Fat Bottom Betties are my go-to, but I'm going to put you up on game right here. Cigarbid.com. Or you can find them at a lot of cigar shops nowadays. They have, it's called Factory Smoked Cigars Sweets. And what they are is they're factory seconds of the Fat Bottom Betty. So a 6-inch Fat Bottom Betty torpedo costs you like $13 normally, or you can buy this factory smoked second and get it for like $2.
It's not bad.
So they're great for at the firehouse, because, hey, I'm smoking this, and we catch a call, and relighting a cigar sometimes ruins, like, hey, it's been a couple hours because we were gone on this, whatever. Relighting it kind of ruins the cigar. Like, it was $2. I can throw that cigar away, and I can pull another one out of my humidor and go from there. But man, I really do I love the Fat Bottom Betties, but I mean, I'm open to, I'll smoke a Macanudo every now and then, or the Nubs. I can't think who makes the Nubs, but I like the Nubs. It's a good firehouse cigar that you can have. I used to be a big CAO guy. You can't go bad with the acids.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, there's a great selection of cigars out there. I've got a 2-cigar humidor that I keep in my rig bag. So after a job, I can fire me up a cigar while we're loading hose, or safety guys don't get me. Might be inside doing a little bit of overhaul, smoking a cigar or something like that.
Nice.
And then when my brother was my chief, I always had 2. So me and him could smoke one together if we wanted, or something like that.
I love that.
I keep one there, and I've got a little travel humidor that I take to work with me every shift, and then I've got my at-home humidor. So I'm a cigar guy.
Nice. I'm gonna have to hit you up for some more tips on that. I've been looking to get back into it, and I'm gonna have to hit you up with some ideas and some tips there, brother. I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of the Rockies. I like the Rocky. Those are
I like a Rocky Patel. Rocky Patel's not a bad cigar at all.
Yeah, I like those. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that information. I appreciate everything else that you give to all of us. If you need to get a hold of Dan Nelms, you can get a hold of him on social media. You have a website for your company, Dan?
We are actually in the process of building one.
Okay.
Man, we have a hard time bragging on ourselves or talking about ourselves and saying we're good at this. But I had a guy within the last month who said, "Hey, man, your social media looks great, but you don't have a foundation. You need to build a website." And 5 minutes before I got on this podcast with you, I was talking to that guy on the phone about fine tuning some stuff. So I would say within the next month, we'll have our full website up running and all the stuff. You can book us through the website. But right now, any of our social media, my personal one, Daniel Nelms, where you can hit my brother up as Trey, or Nelms Fire Company on Facebook, Nelms Fire Co. on Instagram, any of that stuff, and we'll get back to you as quick as we can.
Love
and I told you, my goal is I want to teach in every state in the U.S.
Yes, sir.
So I think, if my count's right, I'm at 14 right now. So I've got a ways to go. So y'all help me out.
I love it. It's a good goal, man. I like that very much. Let's get that goal achieved, brother. Let's get you on every state.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, man. All right, Dan Nelms. Again, you heard him. If you can want to reach out to him, you can get a hold of him on social media, Instagram, Facebook. He's on there. Like I've said before, in the fire service, we don't hoard the information. We'll give it away for free. So if you have any questions, reach out to Dan. He loves to talk shop. So just go ahead and just shoot him a message and he'll get back to you. And if you need a class, he definitely would be the man to talk to about getting out and giving you some great, solid education. So make sure you do that. Again, I always like to also leave it too about mental health. If anybody is struggling, if anybody needs help, I don't have all the answers, but I'll get them for you. So if you want to talk to somebody, you can talk to me. You can message me. I'll try to help you out, and we'll get the answers together. Also, again, Next Rung, Blake Stennett, they're doing great work. Charlie Brown, that is his real name, on Next Rung. He's doing great work as well. They team up. They're a great pair. So you don't have to go it alone. We're losing too many brothers and sisters to suicide, and it needs to stop. And the only way to do it is to talk about it and get help. So if you need somebody to talk to, reach out to anybody, and the people that you care about, they're there for you. So don't make a permanent problem out of temporary solution, man. All right. So thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you click subscribe. If you like what I'm doing, let me know. I appreciate you all. Love you all. Be safe. Dan Nelms, Mazel Tov.
Yeah.